listening to the House by the Video Store podcast.
There's no more room in hell. The dead will walk here.
We have such sights to show you.
I kick ass for the Lord!
Praise God!
Welcome to the House by Video Store podcast. I'm your host, William, and joining me today will be Sean.
Hello.
And Derek will not be joining us because I believe his voice was a bit hoarse after attending a football game last night. But Sean is able to join us after having a child, so
Yeah,
welcome back.
my voice is also out a little bit and getting sick, but I don't know if it's like, I think it's talking to everybody. Hospital, talking nonstop to doctors, and then like family members, like everybody over, talking to the baby. So, but yeah, I managed to actually watch the movie though this week. Couldn't make it to the theater to see Mother or It yet, but
Yes.
yeah, it's been fun.
Yeah, this episode we're discussing The Dead Zone, the Stephen King adaptation directed by David Cronenberg, starring Christopher Walken. That was not Christopher Walken. But
The best Christopher Walken moment in that movie is when he says, "The ice is gonna break." He keeps yelling it after he hits that thing with his cane.
Yeah. So before we get to discussing The Dead Zone, which is was not the TV show that ran on USA with Michael Anthony Hall in the 2000s.
Yeah, and was that the same thing?
Yeah, it was just like
Yeah,
a
that's what I
feature. It was like a
thought, yeah.
longer series version
miniseries.
of the book, and it was pretty good too, from what I remember. I watched it back when it came on, but we'll not be discussing that. We're discussing the movie version. But before that, we'll go through news and things we've been watching. And news, so some huge news that I really wasn't expecting to see is that Jamie Lee Curtis will be back in the new Halloween film coming out October 19th, 2018, which will simply be called Halloween. And she tweeted, "Same porch, same clothes, same issues. 40 years later, headed back to Haddonfield one last time for Halloween." So, and then the picture is her in front of the house wearing the same shirt and types of jeans that she wore in the original film. You know, of course, modern day with Michael in the background.
Except for in 20 years when she's like, "One last time back to Haddonfield."
The Haddonfield retirement home.
Yeah, really.
So it's...
I mean, of course with the baby, it's like barely paying attention to anything, but
Yeah.
just keeping her alive and, talking to her and playing with her and all that stuff. But like, so I haven't kept up on hardly any news, but
Yeah.
every now and then I'll scroll through social media. I saw that image and I was like, what the hell? At first I thought it was just like, I never would
Fan
imagine
image or
that.
something.
I thought it was like an Entertainment Weekly, feature, anniversary thing or just something. Like I didn't know what it was. Immediately that's what they normally do is they shoot those
Yeah.
promo photos. And I thought, oh, that's cool. And then because I think I follow her on Instagram and then
Yeah.
I saw that and I was like, holy shit.
Yeah.
I would have never guessed that. I'm not saying it's out of the realm of impossibility, but I just, for all the speculation of this movie, I don't think anybody just thought that she was going to be, it was going to be a Halloween-ass Halloween movie.
Yeah,
you know?
they're bringing back Jamie Lee Curtis. That theoretically John Carpenter's going to score it because I know he said that he would like to. Jason Blum from Blumhouse promised on over his dead body the movie would come out on the release date they've stated, and because I saw somebody like the Halloween movies Twitter account, they had tweeted something about Halloween 4, and then somebody commented or replied to their tweet and said, "I've heard rumors a new movie's not coming out. Is that true?" And then they responded and they said, "Typically we don't respond to rumors, but nothing has changed since our initial announcement."
Yeah, I saw that too. Not that a few days before this photo came out,
Yeah.
really, which was so weird to see that kind of
Yeah.
pop up.
So that movie's coming out. It'd be amazing if John Carpenter scores it and does something new. Not just the traditional Halloween theme, but some new music.
Yeah.
To kind of build off that, because all this stuff like lost themes and his remasters of other movie themes has been awesome. So to see him get back in that world and score the movie, so that I'm super hyped for that movie now.
Well, I mean, what do you think this movie's even going to be now? Because obviously that makes a whole new
It's not holding
to it.
Halloween, H2O, and Resurrection as canonical.
Yeah, and it's almost a weird thing. Like they do this with games a lot when they might make a game and they'll remaster it or remake
Yeah.
it, where it feels like they made a game and it's a new game, but it's like the greatest hits version.
Yeah.
Where they put all these great moments from the original in and kind
Yeah.
of or original pieces. And they did Tomb Raider, Legend or Anniversary or whatever. And it's is this going to be kind of a twist on some great Halloween moments from
Yeah.
like some of the other films? Like, is it going to be some? I almost expect it to be like a whole totally new experience and a different flavor for Halloween or horror with those guys. But now I don't know. It may be a standard fare, just done really well. Hopefully.
Well, I would hope that having David Gordon Green and Danny McBride writing it and Gordon Green directing it, that it's going to have, you know, a little bit of a humorous side to it. Because I think a lot of those movies, if you just play a slasher, you know, straight to the point and, you know, straightforward in this day and age, the general audiences, I don't think, really like that. Or they haven't responded super well at the box office, you know, in recent years for things. So something like Friday the 13th, you know, had a huge opening weekend in 2009 and then just kind of dropped off completely. And so it did well and it made money, but not enough to make the studio want to sink that amount of money back into another one. And then they can never come up with an approach for it.
Yeah. And two, sometimes when things are too humorous, people get turned off by it too. Like younger audiences are like, wait, that's not scary. I don't think it's, you know what I mean? Like they get thrown off because they expect
a
horror to be just tension the entire time.
Horror comedy is one of those things where I've listened to different podcasts with directors who've made horror comedies. And they say that when you send a studio a horror comedy, like, well, how do we promote this? Because it's not scary enough and it's not funny enough. So then they sell it on the scary aspects in the trailer and people see it and then they hate it because they're like, I expected to be scared out of my mind. And then they're not. So with this movie, hopefully they toe the line kind of like, trying to think of some other examples of genre
Yeah,
films.
because they're not going to go parody on it. You know what I mean? And they're not going to go... You know, it's like, again, Shaun of the Dead is a good way to respectfully do one of those films, but also have a lot of humor. I don't know if they're going to go that far with humor, but it may be like dark humor more so. I don't know.
Some dark ass humor in a Halloween film would be interesting.
So they may. I just really want to know what Jamie Lee Curtis's role is, because you feel like if they're bringing her back, you feel like it's more important than her just being chased around again. You know what I mean? Like
the movie with her coming back, it feels like they're going to make it important to the movie, so it's not just a cameo. I would think.
Yeah, it's not a cameo, and is she? You know. It would be weird if she was just getting chased again. Like, I hope there's some twist or some sort of new fold to her character. And I'm not saying, like, it's revealed that, you know, she conjured Michael Myers when she was little or something like, you know what I mean? Something dumb like that. Like,
well, and two, you have the entire Halloween H2O continuity where, you know, it was years later and she was, you know, had a kid and was able to, you know, to quote unquote defeat Michael Myers in the end. It turns out that he had switched his outfit and mask with one of the ambulance drivers and escaped, and she cut off some innocent guy's head. And then she died at the beginning of Halloween Resurrection when he dropped her or knocked her off the top of the institution. So jettisoning that storyline is fine. But do we now have a Halloween multiverse where there's alternate parallel universe?
It almost just feels, you know, again, it's the way movies are made now, where we kind of just choose to sometimes ignore some of the worst because there's been so much history with some of these franchises. You know what I mean? Like Jurassic World came out and it was almost just like they were saying, oh, this is just Jurassic Park. And they did nods to the old ones, but it wasn't, you know, we didn't pick up with the characters again. You know what I mean?
We didn't see Jeff Goldblum.
This is picking up with the characters, but it seems like it's just like, hey, we all know Halloween. Let's keep the ideal of the I guess the realistic or the continuity kind of foggy in your mind. Like, you watch Halloween movies, but maybe you watched them like 15 years ago, and it really doesn't matter what happened to them. You just know Jamie Lee Curtis and Michael Myers.
Well, I guess it helps too that like on those Fear Fest things or marathons or AMC, most of the time you see 1 and 2, and then 4 and 5.
I hope Paul Rudd shows up.
Well, with the group they're working with, he could.
He
that
absolutely
would be amazing if Tommy Doyle shows up. That would be messing the continuity all up, though, because then you're bringing in Halloween 6, Curse of Michael Myers.
He could play a different character, though. You know what I mean? Like that would be awesome. I really want to know what they're going to do with Michael in this, and just like I'm really excited for it now, just because now we know a little bit more about it. You know what I mean? We can theorize a little bit, but so the release date is October 20th,
October 19th, 2018. So it is supposedly locked in stone and coming.
And I feel like people take Michael Myers. I don't know. I feel like Jason is almost more of a parody than Michael Myers at this point.
Yes.
You know, he's kind of just like this, almost like this cartoonish villain.
Yeah.
Michael Myers, I think, still scares people a little bit. And of course, Friday the 13th didn't turn out huge numbers last time they made one, but, you know, well enough.
Well,
where do you think this is going to land? Because it, you know, was a huge explosion.
Yeah.
And, you know, everybody, you know, people like Stephen King. Doesn't mean they're going to show up though because of the Dark Tower and Pennywise, clowns. Like there was so many things they're building, and the fact that it was a good movie. I didn't get to see it, but from what I've heard, a good movie.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering where this is going to land. I feel like this is going to be obviously not on that level.
Yeah.
But hopefully.
So if we had to guess over a year in advance, I would estimate the final U.S. box office number, assuming the movie's good, to be like in the 80 million-ish range if it actually turns out to be like a super solid film. Mm-hmm. Because the movie's being made on a lower budget. So they had stated that out for us. I think like 10 million or less, somewhere in that range. So not a ton of money. And I think that would put them in the category being a big success. And that would be, I think a level of success they could achieve. Because like that Friday the 13th movie made around that too. But it was $20 million budget plus all the promotional stuff. It's
been a long time since a Halloween movie. Rob Zombie's Halloween.
Yeah, in 2009.
So it's like, is this going to pull out the teenagers, which they want, just because it's just flat Halloween, and they'll know, oh, yeah, Jamie Lee Curtis, maybe they've only seen the first, one, or maybe none at all, but they know. And then maybe it'll turn out the older audiences that saw the original in theaters, that maybe don't go to see horror films all the time, but they were fans of that. They went when they were kids. They thought, oh, Jamie Lee Curtis, Halloween. Maybe if the trailer looks appealing, this could hopefully be a kind of a cross-generational appeal for this film.
Because the 2009 Friday the 13th made 65 million, and I think that this could come in above that just because that was it was the Platinum Dunes remake. So the Michael Bay production company, they all had like a very like shiny gloss to them. And had like CW stars in those films, or people who looked like that.
If they have an unexpected kind of setup, or I don't know, I'm saying just some sort of twist, but angle to this film, like Get Out has an angle to it, and that was very appealing to a lot of people, and that did really well. If this can have a different angle as far as just not being a straight slasher, then it could potentially break that, then it could break past like 80 million or something like that.
So Halloween, the Rob Zombie 2007 film Halloween made 58 million in the US. Halloween 2 made 33 million. And Halloween H2O made 55 million. Resurrection 30. So I think it has the possibility to do better than all of those.
And are these inflation included?
These are just regular numbers.
So even if it does do 80 versus like 55 or whatever, with inflation, that's going to be ticket prices and all that.
So I think that it has the chance to make a solid chunk of change. And two, it's going to be the third film called Halloween starring Michael Myers about Halloween, because the first one, the Rob Zombie remake, and this new one. So it's Halloween quotation marks 2007, Halloween quotation marks 2018. So I think I think around 80 million is like a good barometer for them to prove that it's still socially relevant and part of pop culture that's important. And two, it's unknown like what the media build up to it will be. Well, you have Jamie Lee and all the night shows, and any of the other stars like Damon Bride or whoever on the late night shows.
There's going to be a huge blast with that.
Well, you have them, getting, because I know Michael Myers is in that Dead by Dawn or Dawn Light.
Yeah.
Something. So there's some horror game.
That Dead by Daylight or whatever
there's a horror game that has Michael Myers as like a character in a pack. So will they seed Michael into more popular culture and game items to try to get the younger crowd? And because only the Friday the 13th, the game has been something that drove a lot of buzz around that franchise and character.
Yeah.
But with all the legal stuff, I don't know if they're going to get a movie out with that character anytime soon.
Speaking about nighttime appearances and stuff. Again, having a kid, we're not sitting there like being choosy. Like stuff's just on the TV. Like now, I'm like, oh, I see how people end up watching Big Bang Theory, because we ended up watching an episode and a half the other day because it was just on and we were doing other stuff. But anyway, my wife was watching Ellen, and Kyle MacLachlan was on Ellen promoting Twin Peaks: The Return. Yeah, and also too, they kind of talked about a scene that is in the final episode as well. Yeah, which is so weird, So I'm sure that there's going to be a lot of that. My question too is. I think with this, they're probably testing the waters, and obviously Blumhouse is very good at marketing and strategies, and they're very good at building franchises, with Insidious, Sinister, The Purge, like it goes on and on, The Conjuring, that whole universe. Obviously, if this does well, they're going to say, okay, let's saddle up. Now we're going to do a series of Halloween movies, as long as they can swing that with the rights and everything. Yeah. But my question is like, and it's probably their question too. Our audience is going to show up for a slasher film when it's not, one of the kind of in vogue styles of horror films.
There's not. Maybe they will tinge more supernatural.
Yeah.
With this one, because Michael being in his 60s now, or however old he'd be, 60s or 70s, is what, in 78 when the first one came out, or 78, 79, he was supposed to be like 21, I believe. I'm probably wrong on that. Don't crucify me.
Because she was a baby.
Yeah, she was a baby,
and so she was still in high school, and he was
early 20s, whatever. So if you take 78, and that was, well, math now is going to be tough. It's
I can't do anything right
so
now.
He's in his 60s. Do they address that whatsoever? Do they address any of those plot points or things like that, or is he just this kind of faceless thing that's been out there for however many years killing people, or has he had? So, what the story is, what the wait and see, it's very interesting.
And two, if this is done right, and it's real, and like I said, if it has an angle to it, if it's a straight slasher, it's going to be hard to make this film send a shockwave throughout the industry.
Yeah.
People got tired of the straight slashers. Then Scream came out, and we had all those films, like I Know What You Did Last Summer, and it created this new wave of horror. Blumhouse has been on this streak that they're on for a while that have these horror films. They all, you could take scenes out of each one and almost place them in another. And there may be a different gimmick, but they kind of feel samey in that way. If this can have a certain angle and kind of really energize this subgenre, this could potentially pave the way for a lot of other slasher films. You know what I mean? To kind of, if they figure out kind of how to crack the code and make slasher films exciting again.
Yeah.
And something that people can kind of jump off of to make their own in that vein, or just kind of from that perspective maybe. But yeah, it's a hard nut to crack. I'm really interested in this film.
So according to the fandom Wikia, Michael Myers would be 59 years old because he was born in, when the movie comes out, he'd be 60 because he was born on October 19th, 1957. So I'm assuming the 19th is part of the reason they chose that date. For 2018.
So he will also be in his own Activia commercials. Yeah. Have you seen that image that
where somebody photos or put Michael Myers in the background of Jamie Lee Curtis's Activia commercial?
Just limbing there, walking forward slowly.
Let's see. Yeah, so he was 21 the original Halloween. So addressing that would be interesting too. But then again, you have people like Sylvester Stallone who are ripped as hell at their late 60s. So
is he? Yeah. What approach are they going to take? Yeah, what approach are they going to take? Are they going to...
Yeah, it's unknown.
I'm hyped through the roof for this film now, just because it opens up so many more questions. I was already before because I'm huge fans of theirs. But yeah, I'm very... And Halloween's not even my favorite franchise. I really like that original film. I like 2 a whole lot. I like 3. Didn't mind Rob Zombie's Halloween. I like Michael Myers, but it's not there's even ones I have not watched yet. So it's not I'm huge into them. But
yeah. So we'll have to wait and see on that. Other slightly related news is John Carpenter released a new music video / short film he directed for the remaster of the Christine theme, because he has an album coming out in October and a tour where he's doing remasters of a lot of the iconic movie scores he had done over the years. So he did a new video that was kind of a short film for his remaster of Christine. You can check that out. It's, under 5 minutes because just to the song.
I bet that'll be playing on the screen behind them while they perform it live.
I would assume
they may produce more of those. Because now that first time it was a test bed. Now they know that it had success. They may, let's put some more money into it. Now let's make some of these videos.
Yeah.
Because it seemed pretty low budget, or it wasn't a huge production.
It seemed like in the realm of possibility for not a ton of money.
Yeah.
Granted, it looked like it was shot in LA where everything cost way more, but the music video, there's not a lot of story to it. It's just a car driving around, and I don't want to spoil it if you haven't seen it. Watch it.
It's fine. It's cool. It's awesome that he did that. It's cool. I feel like he may also too be getting his feet wet again, since he's supposed to do that episode of that TV show, right, or something.
Dipping his toe back into the...
Yeah.
Because I think he directed or produced or was heavily involved with a couple of music videos they made for some of the Lost Themes songs. And those, once again, weren't big budgeted items either. They looked pretty, low key. So I think this is, like you said, hopefully him just wetting his feet to get back into some things, and then kind of taking the approach of, wading in instead of jumping on some big feature film that he may not be into. doing some music video stuff, doing an episode of a TV show, and then maybe getting to a feature.
And what has changed since he did The Ward?
It's like 2010.
So I don't feel like a lot of things has probably changed on production side that he needs to be aware of. But who knows? I don't know all the ins and outs. But technology wise, he shouldn't have to deal with too much of that. He should have all his people around him, figuring that stuff out, and he needs to worry about the vision. So, it's crazy how many things just keep coming back. I was watching Mad Max today also, and Blade Runner, and Beyond Thunderdome, and again, new Blade Runner. The new Mad Max was excellent. Hopefully Blade Runner is awesome.
It's going to be one of the longest blockbusters ever. I think 2 hours and 43 minutes. One of the longest blockbuster movies recently.
Well, let's hope it's a blockbuster film. Yeah,
big budgeted, tentpole, heavily marketed film. Other news: Twin Peaks: The Return will be hitting Blu-ray and DVD on December 5th. So keep an eye out for that. I'm excited about that. I'll be ordering that whenever I can.
I'm upset that Dougie isn't on the cover though. I was really bummed. I'm like, what are they doing? They left out the biggest star of the season, Dougie. He had probably the most screen time almost.
Yeah, so if you haven't seen the show, when you watch it, you'll know what that means. But it's coming out on DVD and Blu-ray then. So
and it's titled Twin Peaks Season 3. Yeah. I know that's probably just to not confuse people if they see the Twin Peaks: The Return and pick it up and watch it and are like, what the hell? So it probably helps funnel sales of the original series too. But I don't know if that's any speculation as far as maybe they are actually talking.
Well, David Lynch in a recent interview said it took him 4.5 years to write and finish this season. So, he'll see if, about another season. Yeah. And it's possible. He also said, he had a quote about, somebody asked him about the ending, and what was it? It was a very Lynchian quote. He said, "Many things in life just happen. We have to come to our own conclusions. You can, for example, read a book that raises a series of questions, and you want to talk to the author, but he died 100 years ago. That's why everything is up to you." Mm-hmm. So I think with that approach, even if they make a new season, it's going to provide some narrative closure because you see the continuation of scenes. Yeah. But I don't think he'll then continue it on and then conclude it. It's more of just opening up new questions.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not going to be, part 2 of this season, I don't think. I was talking to my wife about it today because I think there was some sort of plot line. I don't know what it was. Just something popped in mind. I'm like, what was that even about? Yeah. And I was like, we'll never know. Even if they make another one, I literally think it will be surrounding maybe a few characters. Just because it seems like he kind of went in a different direction with this entire season. So he's probably going to do that again next time as well, even displaced from this one.
Yeah, spend it entirely with Richard.
I'm trying not to spoil too much because I remember this isn't the Twin Peaks video series.
Yeah, so go watch those videos. You want to see our discussion on Twin Peaks: The Return. Other related news, since he was in Twin Peaks: The Return, Harry Dean Stanton has passed away at 91. Yeah. Which is incredibly
Huge
sad
bummer.
Because, seeing him in Twin Peaks: The Return, he was still doing his thing. He had, recent movies come out. I heard him in a podcast, heard him on a podcast a couple years ago. And it was really funny because somebody was asking him a character question. I think about something from Pretty in Pink since he was the dad.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
And it was
quote.
Some big, long, involved question about what he thought about who Molly Ringwald's character ended up with.
Yeah, Duck should he be in with Ducky or the rich boy?
And then he's like, I don't give a fuck. So that just shows you. And then he talked about John Carpenter had discussed with him making a TV series where he's a detective in the 70s or 80s.
That'd been awesome.
Or something. So there was a bunch of cool stuff.
I love Harry Dean Stanton. Alien too. As far as the horror stuff goes. Stellar in that, and I think he is in a new film where he's kind of the star of it. I think David Lynch is even a little bit. I watched the trailer of that. That looks great. I really want to check that out. But The Return in Twin Peaks: The Return, Lynch, it almost like he was saying goodbye to a lot of his friends and people he'd worked with in that series because there was a lot of scenes that weren't just setting up exposition. There's literally a scene of him just sitting there playing guitar. There's something that happens, but it's he gave him some time to breathe and kind of perform. Yeah. There's some where he's just sitting on a bench, enjoying nature. Yeah. It's a very different show, but it's great because it really touches on a lot of real things, and you get to see real people, and it is a lot of older actors. Yeah. And so many of them have passed before the series started, and then while it was going on, and then now afterwards. So
it's incredibly sad.
Yeah.
But so Harry Dean Stanton has passed away, so somebody that will be missed.
Yeah.
But you're going to go. 91's a pretty full life.
Yeah,
so.
and he kept working right up till the end.
Yeah, because he was in the movie Lucky was the one he was the star of recently.
Okay,
that was
yeah.
directed by John Carroll Lynch, who's been on American Horror Story, Zodiac, Drew Carey Show, a bunch of stuff. So I've been interested to see that because I heard an interview with John Carroll Lynch, and he said since David Lynch was in it, he asked David Lynch, he's like, well, how would you direct this? And then David Lynch was like, well, and then just basically implied that he wasn't going to direct somebody else's film. He was just an actor in it. Not like a negative way, just like jokingly.
Well, yeah, it's one of those personal things. You know what I mean? Like, he's not going to answer questions about what happened in the show. Obviously, he's not going to like pour his heart out to say, well, this is how I feel about it, because then it would be, you know, even if it's influenced by their person, then it's not pure from that person's perspective. Yeah. Because that's the way David Lynch goes about it. Yeah. Some people are like, hey, look, logistically, what do you think would be good for this scene for the audience? And then a lot of people collaborate. David Lynch seems to be like, he directs from the gut, I think, and that's it.
Yeah, so there's that. It's huge at the box office. Opening weekend was like $123 million. The box office numbers for this most recent week, when I just checked, I was recording this Sunday morning. It wasn't refreshed. Let me see if it's refreshed yet. Because it's been a monster hit.
I didn't listen to your all's podcast.
Oh, it's estimated that it came in this weekend at $60 million, which is a 50% drop, which is not that huge for a horror film. So that puts the total domestic gross over $200 million at this point, and puts it on, track to be one of the highest grossing R-rated horror films.
How much they spend on it?
The production budget was estimated at $35 million. So huge multiplier on that. It's gonna make a ton of money. And the worldwide gross is currently, the foreign gross is $150 million. So worldwide, it's getting close to $400 million.
Are there any countries where like clowns are banned or anything?
I don't know.
You have any ghost movies in China and stuff?
But you look at this, so it $35 million, and you compare it to something like Alien Covenant, which cost significantly more, and Alien Covenant is going to make less money worldwide. So I think this will hopefully encourage. Let's see, because Alien Covenant in the U.S. made $74 million. Foreign, it made $160 million for a worldwide gross of $236. So it, on a production budget, because the production budget for Alien Covenant was estimated at $97 million. So for about a third of the production budget, it's going to more than double the gross. And that would hopefully encourage studios to make, horror or genre properties with a little bit of money behind them, but within reason.
Yeah.
Like $50 million or less. So
they spent time on this film. It went through different directors. They didn't seem to rush it out the door. Even though they may have not thrown $100 million at it, they at least
they didn't keep it in that $10 million ghetto.
Yeah, and they seem to give it the time it needed and just enough money to do it justice from the outside appearance. So I didn't listen to y'all's podcast because I'm going to watch the movie first. But I take it you guys liked it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, Derek was very positive. I was very positive on it too.
My little cousin said they liked it because we actually had tickets for it on that Saturday. I bought tickets because I told you guys Friday night. I was like, oh, they're all sold out except for like really bad seats. And then my wife, like 4 a.m. on Saturday, her water broke, but I had already bought tickets for like 1 o'clock or like later in that day. And then because we're trying to run some errands, like, okay, let's just fit this in right here because I have to see it for the podcast. And then I didn't get to do it. Luckily, I was able to refund, but my little cousins came in who love horror to see Nicole, and they were like, did y'all see it yet? We're like, no, we had tickets. So we saw it. My aunt said, it was good. It was good. She loves Stephen King. Yeah. But my cousins loved it. And they're like, I don't know, 10 and 12. I always forget their birthdays, but.
Yeah, it's one of those movies where, I think Derek gave it a 9.5 or something. I gave it a 9. I have seen people complain about the CG in it. Which, to be honest, when I watched the movie, I never really stopped to think about the CG. Because I'm sure if you rewatch it, it probably doesn't hold up, because most CG doesn't in a lot of cases. Like Alien Covenant, I'm sure the aliens in this fully CG one doesn't look great, but overall I thought it was not really scary, but in the same way that a lot of times I watch a comedy and I don't really laugh a lot, but I really enjoy it. Like with that, I was never scared or, super excited, but I enjoyed the movie and enjoyed spending time with the characters in the universe. Yeah. So it's one of those things where, and too, when you watch a bunch of horror films for a podcast, it's not, you don't sit there and jump at most things. Mm-hmm. It's more of just like, oh, that was effectively done. I can see that would scare the crap out of a normal audience. Because somebody commented on our It review and said I think Derek said it had his pulse pounding, and somebody mentioned that gets your pulse pounding, you must be very sheltered. It's the horror movies that I love the most, number one's The Thing, and then Evil Dead 1 and 2 and a bunch of stuff like that. So it's not that I get scared. I was scared by it. I just enjoyed it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it had that kind of like Stranger Things-esque feeling. Granted, that was just referencing Stephen King stuff.
Yeah.
But I think for the modern audience, it's just an extension of that.
Yeah. How was that? Maybe 2.5 hours long, or was it?
Yeah, it was like 2 hours and 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And it didn't feel like it was the thing.
Yeah. I'll see about, we're not really leaving the baby with anybody right now to go see a movie.
Yeah.
And I feel bad leaving her to watch it, but she's like, you can go see whatever, but I still feel bad right now just being like, all right, take care of the baby. I'm only going out for this podcast and like film shoots or, video production shoots I'm going on to make money. So, but yeah, I really want to see that and Mother because I liked Black Swan a lot. I just want to see what they did with that. I've heard some interesting things. I heard some negative things too, but
yeah, it's got an F Cinema score the last I saw, which is a coveted score.
Yeah, even still, like any sort of controversial film, one way or the other.
Well, like It Comes at Night and a lot of stuff like that has like terrible user scores compared to good critical reviews of The Witch. So yeah, I want to see that. And I'll try. I was discussing with Julie trying to see it this week, so hopefully I have time. But I think that was kind of all the big news. So was there anything that you had a chance to watch this week or relevant?
There was probably some stuff I flipped through on TV. You know what I mean? I just like was flipping through and just seeing anything, bits and pieces of stuff. Watched Home Alone twice. And then Home Alone 2.
Well, our short film Ride had a scene that was pulled very close from Home Alone 2.
Yeah, Home Alone 2. I was like, oh, I totally forgot. Like Corey,
we were doing a production meeting for it and going through like some of the blocking and stuff. And then for like part of that scene in Ride in the car, Corey's like about Home Alone 2, and he showed us pulled up on YouTube, and I was like, that's exactly, and it's almost exactly what we did.
Yeah, like I watched it on his phone, and I kind of saw it, but it was like, I don't know, it was outside, and it was like low quality, and I was like, okay, yeah, and we just shot it, and then watching Home Alone 2, I was thinking, damn, we like almost recreated that exactly, like the exact like focal length of the lens and everything.
So like a Home Alone 2 homage in our short film called Ride about a ride service. And apparently, there's a feature-length movie called Ride, RYDE, that was being made around or before the same time as ours. That's about a rideshare service, and it also has kind of like the visuals are kind of an homage, like the 80s, and Drive, the Ryan Gosling movie. So similar inspiration, similar name. Didn't know it existed until I saw somebody talk about it or reviewed it a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, a new trailer.
Yeah, I looked it up, and they had stuff from it from like last summer. So it's like it was going around the same time.
Yeah,
but interesting nonetheless. So,
at least you didn't make a full feature and then realize somebody did the same thing.
Well, we were done first, so, and ours was shared by Blumhouse.
Yeah,
so.
At least you just you just dedicated like, a 3-minute time slot, even if it was similar to what somebody else did. And we got ours done really quick. Other than that, I did watch Jackie, not horror related, but Natalie Portman, Jackie O. That was really good. I've been wanting to see that since it came out and just never made it to theaters to see it. Finally had some time just chilling out. I really like her a whole lot as an actress. And I think because I watched Black Swan again, I was like, all right, I was jonesing for some more Natalie Portman.
Black Swan.
But a very good film. I think it was directed, I may be wrong, I think it might be directed by a French director and like a Chilean cinematographer or... Anyway, they're not neither one of them are American. So it's, it has a different perspective and it feels a little bit different. And, I saw somebody bring up the point that it was great that there wasn't this American perspective spin on the film. Yeah. So it wasn't the same thing that maybe like mass audiences maybe think of Jackie Kennedy. Yeah. You know what I mean? So, but I really like it. I really like the just the feel of that movie, the tone, it just wasn't like a straightforward film that was, it was done from an auteur, So I really enjoyed that. I think I watched that on HBO Go, but yeah. You didn't watch anything, right?
No, I didn't have much of a chance to watch anything this week.
Vice Principals is tonight since we're recording on Sunday, right?
Yes. So I canceled my HBO and Showtime subscriptions when Showtime announced the Twin Peaks season 3 release date, and then Game of Thrones is over. Then I remembered that Vice Principals is back. It's like maybe I should just wait till the last episode and get it for that month and watch them all. Yeah,
because it's probably only like 10 episodes, or something like that.
Because the last one wasn't many. I think the entire thing was 18.
Yeah.
Or something like that, because it's not many.
Yeah, I remember the season was like very short, but in a good way, because it was very compact and it did what it needed to do.
Yeah, so I didn't have a chance to watch anything. I mean, I watched Or I think this week I was also dealing with, I got another, submitted a short film after the slasher to another film fest. Waiting to hear back to see if it gets in. If it does, we'll announce that here and on the site.
Yeah, Chad came over Tuesday. We got home from the hospital Monday afternoon, and Chad came over Tuesday to work on his film that we shot. So we got some notes on that and figured some things out. So I just need to.
So we have 2 short films will be coming out at some point in the near future. But yeah, so now we can move into our discussion of The Dead Zone, the 1983 film directed by David Cronenberg, starring Christopher Walken. That was a Stephen King adaptation, and it's listed on IMDb as a horror / sci-fi thriller, which I guess makes sense. And the basic description is a man awakens from a coma to discover he has a psychic ability. And I guess full spoilers throughout. This movie's from '83. I watched it on Amazon Prime, so if you have that service, you can watch it there, streaming. And it's a movie that is, I think, at the top, like the upper echelon of Stephen King adaptations. Because I think this, in my opinion, is above Cujo and Pet Sematary. Because even though Pet Sematary is one of those things that I really liked as a kid, rewatching as an adult, it's like that's a movie that would be ripe for a remake because there is a lot that you could do there to update it. Now, people love it, and it is still entertaining and enjoyable, but like that movie is not flawless. I mean, this one isn't either, The Dead Zone, but it's one of those movies I think it's the upper echelon of King adaptations. Because, of course, I think the best, which ironically is his least favorite, is The Shining. But then there's also his non-horror stuff like Shawshank Redemption, Green Mile. Yeah. And those, I mean, maybe Shawshank is the best. Well, taking Shining out of it because Stephen King wasn't super happy with the liberties Kubrick took, the Stephen King adaptation that I guess he's okay with or that's closer to his vision is probably the Shawshank Redemption.
It's a good-ass movie.
And TNT shows that all the time.
Yeah.
Because there was a while where you could watch it almost at any point in a day. You could turn it on and be on some TV channel. Yeah. So, but like the more horror bent Stephen King items, like Beneath the Shining, I think this is towards the top of the pile. Compared, so at least the book adaptations. There's other stuff like Creepshow that I thought was really good too.
Oh yeah. I watched this probably actually only like 3 or 4 months ago. And really, the reason I kind of jumped on it is because it was David Cronenberg. Yeah. I like his stuff a whole lot. And Christopher Walken and Stephen King. But, there's a lot of Stephen King adaptations out there, and not all of them are that great. You know what I mean? You can have a lot of dumpy ones. So it's like, let's see what Cronenberg did with it. I enjoyed it, a whole lot. I liked it quite a bit. And that's why you mentioned it. I was like, yeah, sure, I just watched it, but I'll watch it again. But I will have to say, it's a messy film, kind of. It does feel very truncated. Yeah. And it feels like it jumps from one thing to the other, almost with not a strong connective tissue. It does seem like it was a larger piece of literature or something. So a TV series does seem like it would fit it more appropriately, I think. And to almost the gimmick of it, the middle part when he is basically helping the detectives, like Tom Skerritt, that seems like that would be like a CBS show or something. You know what I mean? That's what it felt like. But there weren't a ton of shows like that back then.
Because that could have been its own movie with just him helping detectives or police with murder investigations.
Yeah, it's weird because it jumps from, he starts out and he's riding a roller coaster. Then for some reason he throws into his psychic fits but doesn't see anything. Then he has the accident and then he wakes up and sees the nurse's house on fire with a kid in there. And then it's kind of it does a good job of building the mystery. It starts setting things up and kind of getting you into this world. And then you're introduced to his psychiatrist or whatever, and the guy's helping him rehabilitate and stuff. And there's interesting angles with him, with his past and the Holocaust. But then it jumps to the police officer, which is a little bit connected. He sees him on TV and is like, okay, we need help. Let's try this. But then it just seems to almost abandon all that and I'm just going to move away now. And now there's this politician, which they mentioned the politician in that press conference, but it just seems like there was a lot of ideas and that's smushing them into one thing made it stood out to not really feel like a natural story and more as far as like points they want to hit on.
Because I do agree with that, because like in the book, I haven't read the book. I know Derek did, but he wasn't, like I said, he's not able to be on this podcast, but like him discussing it and then reading like the synopsis of it, like there was more stuff they left out just because it's a movie.
Yeah. It's only like what, an hour and 40 minutes or something?
Yeah, it's not
43 minutes.
It's not super long. I mean, if this was made as a movie today, it would probably be over 2 hours.
Yeah.
I mean, I think audiences are okay with that now, and studios are more okay with it because it was an hour and 43 minutes. But yeah, I mean, I think that the story, like once you get to him waking up in the hospital with the ability, you kind of have him like discuss the nurse like saving her kid essentially by talking about the fire. And then
his hair's totally different when he wakes up.
Yeah,
he has that like bowl cut almost
that was
at first
not a good,
with his glasses, and by the end he's like an awesome like hero with a cane and a limp and like it's awesome Christopher Walken hair.
His haircut was not the best during this
his
movie.
like trench coat. He looked awesome by the end of it, but he seemed like a total nerd when it started.
When he had a like. Because I think too in the book that him and his girlfriend had only kissed at that point. And then the TV series, his girlfriend was pregnant with his child when he went into the coma. And this one, his girlfriend, while he was in the coma, married someone else and had a kid.
I kind of like that, they drew me to the character whenever, she's like, oh, come on in. He's like, no, some things are worth waiting for. It's like, whatever. But I almost like, okay, cool, this is a good guy. You know what I mean? Like, that's like, even if he didn't wait, that doesn't mean he's a bad guy. But like this guy's like really like trying to
I'm a good guy.
He's trying to hold up his own personal set of morals that he believes. And he has a lot of self-control. So I was like, oh, that's I like that about his character, that it felt a little bit different.
He later has sex with her when she's married.
Yeah. Then he's like, all bets are off. Yeah. But that's his transformation. He went from that goofy haircut with those big glasses to the limp with the trench coat. Being a homewrecker.
Well, yeah, I mean, and two, though, you have the element of, losing, 5 years of your life and all this stuff.
Yeah, traumatic experience.
Unlocking his full, psychic ability.
Crashing into a milk tanker, right?
Because, like, when I was rewatching this, because I hadn't watched it in a while, and I was like, oh, is it like an explosion? It's like, oh, no, it's not, like, oil or gas or something. But, the police investigation part was, interesting.
Yeah.
And it didn't immediately jump to that. It kind of took him a little while to come around on it. And then when he did figure out that it was like one of the deputies or one of the officers that worked for the sheriff or the Tom Skerritt's character, then he committed suicide in a way that looked like a terrible way to commit suicide if you're going to get caught.
That was
blow your brain out.
That was a brutal David Cronenberg scene. Almost like not quite body horror, but it was that very simple but like horrifying feeling watching something. Way better than for me a monster jumping out at somebody most of the time.
Even watching that now, the effect still looked good when he's in there with like the scissors through his face. You see that and that worked. I mean, it made sense though because he killed his victims with scissors too.
Yeah, most of that felt like a pretty natural progression. You know what I mean, as far as him going into the murder stuff. And he wasn't like totally convinced at first. Like that felt pretty good, and it didn't really take you out of the film until it just like all of a sudden you get thrown into this. Martin Sheen's character out of nowhere, which is a great character, and I think he's an awesome actor, and I like that stuff, but it was just a weird
I guess
contrast.
too, it makes a little bit, it does make sense because he's being the tutor for the kid. That's how he comes into the realm of Martin Sheen's character. It does seem very coincidental how he brushes across him and shakes his hand.
No, I think he was intentionally seeking him out then for some reason.
He was looking for Sarah was her name.
Okay.
Because he was following her and wanted to talk to her, and then when he was trying to get to Sarah, then Martin Sheen kind of intersected him, just kind of going through the crowd, and then shook his hand, just shaking constituents' hands.
It works kind of narratively. They have his former lover kind of.
So it gives a narrative reason for him to be there.
But it just feels thematically like all of a sudden they jump from one experience to another, then all of a sudden this is about the world ending. Like all of a sudden, and when it's like this simple kind of thing here, and it's not like he's
it changes scope dramatically in that third act. And it introduces a new character that they only name dropped before, really.
So it just it does feel like they had to just figure out how to I could see the book being more satisfying like kind of his life leading him down this path to saving the world.
Yeah.
Over time and his experiences and stuff. But
then, so then once he realizes that Martin Sheen's character, Greg Stilson, will go on to become president and engage in nuclear war when it's not necessary. Then he, when he goes to his doctor and asks, like, since his doctor, he saw the vision of him as a kid in a concentration camp, and his mom, he informed his mom was still alive when he thought that she was dead. And so he asked him, he's like, what would you do if you knew that you could kill Hitler before he came to power? And then his doctor was basically like, do it.
Yeah, he's like, well, I'm a man of peace and I love people and I'm a medical doctor, so there would be no choice. I would absolutely do it.
So then he's like, oh, right, I'm going to do it. So then he goes down the path of deciding to kill Stilson. And
sacrifice himself too.
Yeah, because he knows
said you wouldn't get out of there. He said, "Well, that doesn't matter."
Yeah, there's no way that he'll be able to survive it. But he, takes the rifle and takes down the bus without anybody really questioning. You have a rifle-shaped bag, which in today's world would be much more called out, or I think would be more alarming.
Or would it?
Or maybe not. I don't know. In some areas, they have those rallies where people have like AR-15 assault rifles on their backs.
I have no idea.
But then he goes to the rally at the church. And he goes to shoot Stilson, and he misses. And then he grabs Sarah's baby and holds it up to shield himself. And then there's a picture snapped of that, which is what ends his career politically. And in the movie, at least, leads him to eventually commit suicide. I guess out of like shame and failure. And that was like dramatically, like the moment that was quite poignant. In that his downfall, Stilson's downfall, wasn't that he got shot and killed and became a martyr. It was that he got exposed for the spineless, sociopath he is.
Yeah, and it was almost like another positive fold to Christopher Walken's character, because it's like, okay, at least he didn't have to commit, he didn't even commit murder, even if it was this person who was going to possibly bring about the end of the world. At least we still weren't rooting for a guy that just shot somebody kind of in cold blood. Yeah. And before he actually really did that. You know what I mean? Like when it was just on premonition. And I noticed too, they specifically, ask him about, voting, and he's like, I'm unregistered, I'm not registered. So it's like, I feel like Stephen King, I don't know if it was like in the book, but there was intent there to be like, okay, this isn't about political on one side or the other, because even the candidate is a third party. Yeah. So they weren't trying to make it like
Democrat, Republican.
Yeah, or necessarily there was some evil, there was some defined evil, but it was just like evil people can mess some stuff up.
This is a guy that should not be leader and should not be in charge.
And the Holocaust thing would be very hard to get across something of that magnitude in a flashback, so you could immediately jump to nuclear war, because everybody knows that's very horrible. So it's like, okay, we'll just show this little snapshot, which was a smart way to handle it. But I liked all that stuff too. Like I loved Martin Sheen's character. Like he was a son of a bitch. Like to the reporter and everything.
It was the prequel to Spawn. Yeah, this is before he went on to become Jason Wynn in Spawn. Yeah, but
so I liked all that scenes, all those scenes too. They felt very short. Even watching it this time, I thought, I felt like I spent more time with that. Yeah. But I like that all, and really just watching Christopher Walken throughout the entire film too. Is he's just an entertaining actor to watch, and he doesn't like ham it up too much. There's some really funny scenes, like when he first...
It's not overly dramatic Christopher Walken for the majority of the film.
Yeah, the one funny scene is a little bit overly dramatic. Not really in his performance, or his line deliveries, but it's whenever he first sees his wife again.
Yes, or Sarah.
And he closes the door whenever her husband comes up to it. Yeah. And his tutor, he just grabs the kid and just starts crying, Yeah. So, like, there's some goofy, dated stuff, and... I was thinking too, like, would this film have been released by a studio being this kind of... Again, I feel like it's still a little messy. Yeah. Like, I feel like structurally they would have maybe worked on a little bit more.
Well, there's some stuff too that, like, in the book, from what I read, was hammered on or more important than the movie. So in the movie, when he warns the boy's father that he's tutoring to not let him play hockey because the ice will break and they'll drown... the dad, doesn't take it seriously, and then the son doesn't want to do it because he believes, Christopher Walken's character is tutor, and doesn't want to do it. So then his friends still die in the hockey game, and then he sees it in the newspaper later But I think in the book is more of a thing of he realized he needs to take more action proactively with his premonitions to make sure that he prevents something versus just telling someone. So that kind of spurs him to action with the Stilson thing even more thematically.
Okay,
To realize like, you know, I told somebody and they still didn't listen and kids died.
Yeah.
So he gets this other one that's going to destroy the entire world. He can't just, you know, rely on just telling someone else. He has to take action himself to do it. So I think in the movie, it spent just a little bit more time on that plot point.
Yeah.
And that, you know, because it kind of was, you know, insinuated with his conversation with the doctor, but it wasn't as explicit. And there wasn't, you know, showing like the moment of realization or determination there.
It would, yeah, it's a hard thing to balance with it only being like an hour, 45 minutes. And it's just a constricting, you know, it's just a constricting thing for this type of story, I think, is adapting it to a film that is that short. But yeah, I'd be interested in seeing the TV show, or even kind of, you know, taking it further. Like, I just feel like there could have been also some other things to explore with this, but that was an interesting film because it was something basic about humanity. It was, you know, it was the basic "Would you kill Hitler?" question, you know, in the film. But yeah, I did enjoy it quite a bit. And I liked watching it again. I like Cronenberg a lot. You know, not one of my favorite Cronenberg films, but that's because I like a lot of them. Like, it's still a really enjoyable film, and really entertaining. But yeah.
See, because so, you know, like, once again, I think that it's an enjoyable movie, and I enjoy watching it, and I'd probably watch it again at some point. I do think it could have used about 15 more minutes of story, just kind of help flesh it out a little bit. But, you know, you get Christopher Walken and Cronenberg. This isn't the top of the line Cronenberg, but it is still, I think, you know, top of the line King's, you know, especially 80s adaptations, you know, towards the top of that pile. And let's see, the IMDb user score is 7.2 out of 10. The Metacritic is 69. So, you know, generally favorable reviews, not like super overwhelmingly favorable, but something that, you know, people have a positive opinion of. But I don't see this on too many like top 10 lists or anything like that.
Yeah, I don't hear this talked about a whole lot either. I
think part of the reason is you have that TV series that ran on USA to a little bit, you know, fanfare when it came out. We'll see on Rotten Tomatoes, it's at a 90%.
Wow.
So that's pretty high.
How many reviews is it?
But it's also an older film, so there's not as many reviews of it.
It may have been people writing about it, gushing about it because they love it as well.
So audience score 76%. There's 41 reviews. So, you know,
there's something about Stephen King's sometimes gimmicks that really like strike a chord with people that even you can kind of identify them on the face value of being almost gimmicks or like, you know, just kind of like, oh, we're going to have an idea and it's jumping off points. But there's something about the ideas that he has, even if they are as simple as, oh, a man can, you know, see how people die or their future by touching them. Something simple with that, he's able to turn into something very appealing to people that makes them kind of be maybe introspective about it as well, and put themselves in their shoes.
See, and then one of these reviews from 2006 from Tom Charity of Time Out said Cronenberg pulls it off, but you can't help feeling it's a movie in search of a TV series. And they made a TV series.
Yeah.
But, you know, overall, so the positive reviews, if to give this movie a score out of 10, where would you land on giving it a score?
I'd give it a solid 7, I think, probably.
Yeah, I mean, I think I would probably go like 7.5. Just because 7.5 to 8, just because I enjoy Christopher Walken. And it's funny to go back and watch Christopher Walken before he became known for his Walken-isms. So, you know, like Deer Hunter and like this. So things when he was, you know, doing bona fide, you know, big-time work. And, you know, more recent stuff, he's done more comedies or kind of parodies of himself. I mean, he's been in some stuff and been very good, but a lot of stuff like Wedding Crashers, he's kind of low-key. But, you know, there's a lot of movies where he's just kind of an over-the-top, you know, caricature of himself. You know,
Joe Dirt.
Joe Dirt.
I love his character in Joe Dirt.
There's a bunch of stuff in, like, the 2000s that he was in. Click, where he's like the janitor that gives him the remote.
Yeah, I only saw the trailer for that. He was the reason I wanted to watch the movie. Though was Christopher Walken was in it.
I saw when it came out, but you know it was Christopher Walken when he was known not as you know the Walken impersonations and more cowbell. From Saturday Night Live.
I really think SNL probably really elevated him to a different audience and almost like a different brand of Christopher Walken that we may have not have gotten if it wasn't for SNL.
Because it's like you go back and you watch Nicolas Cage in Raising Arizona or stuff from like the 90s before he became, quote unquote Nick Cage with all the zany acting and over the top elements.
Imagine if you take almost any of the crazy Nicolas Cage scenes and put them on an episode of SNL. Those skits would be some of the best skits ever.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that, they would have blown up. Unfortunately, those aren't always played for comedic value in the films.
Well, I think the best use of Nicolas Cage in recent years was in Kick-Ass when he was Big Daddy, and it was just because his over-the-top elements meshed very well with the tone they were going for and what the intent was. Christopher Walken is somebody too that I think can still do very good work. Mm-hmm. It's just he needs to be, properly utilized to not make it more of a caricature of the Walkenisms. Mm-hmm. But this is a movie that if you haven't watched it in a while, you can go back and check it out. It's on Amazon Prime, or you can buy it on DVD or Blu-ray, and it probably runs and reruns on TV sometime. But so something you can check out on Amazon Prime if you want. So I guess that'll wrap up our discussion of The Dead Zone.
And two, thanks everybody for the comments. Shout outs for me and my wife and the baby. Appreciate that as well. I forgot to mention that at the beginning.
Yeah, because it's always interesting. It's always nice to see people that don't comment all the time comment and show they actually listen to the episode. So so it's always awesome to see comments, and we always try to make an attempt to respond.
Yeah, appreciate the well wishes as well.
Yeah, and then too on the comments too, like I'll try to respond to them, but sometimes at work I'll get busy and then forget when I see a comment come in, because it's just us that manage the YouTube account. There's not some other third party, and then I'll try to go back and remember to say something, then sometimes I'll forget. So it's always appreciated. We always read all the comments, even the negative ones, and try to take that as feedback for future episodes. But so you can also send us an email at podcast@housebadvideostore.com if you're listening via the audio only version. If you have any questions or comments or anything, you can find all the work we're doing at housebadvideostore.com. Find links there to all of our social media accounts. Make sure you follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and other places. Make sure you follow us on Facebook and YouTube for sure, because we'll have those new short films coming out in the next month or so. They'll be out before Halloween. Depending on the Film Fest stuff, if it gets into none of them, they'll be coming out early. At least one of them will be early October. Mm-hmm. If it gets into one or both, it'll be coming out late October. We'll probably do the other one earlier, depending. But keep an eye out because of those short films coming out, maybe some other content. But you can find me specifically on social media at Twitter at Will_Droid.
And I'm at SplevinSean.
And then make sure you follow our Twitter account, which is HBTVS_official. And that's also our account on Instagram, which you should check out, because if we work on any upcoming video projects or anything, we always do, or I try to do stories and behind the scenes pictures, so you can check that out. We also post stuff there sometimes about what we're doing on the podcast. So not sure exactly what's going to be the next one, but keep an eye out and we'll announce what that'll be. But I think this will wrap up this episode of the House by Video Store podcast. Thanks for listening.